All right, guys. Tonight is the sermon. It's Sermon Saturday. It is Glitter Sparkles. It is Scripture night. We are going to be talking in the book of Judges. The book of Judges is an Old Testament. It's part of the Old Testament. And we're talking about a guy named Samson. Uh, so Samson was a man that was born a Nazarite. And in order for a Nazarite to be a Nazarite, there's three things that they have to do. There's three rules of their life, and the first one is um, they can never eat or touch anything that's dead. They can never cut their hair, and I forget what the third one was. I guess we'll find out as we read. But there's three things that Nazarites and Samson, we're going to go through his life. And this starts in Judges 13. This is going to be a little bit of a longer sermon tonight because we go to the birth of Samson, his life, and then his eventual death. And then we got a couple other things to talk about, and then we'll open up discussion and we'll have a good time. So in Judges 13, it starts the birth of Samson. Again, the Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight. So the Lord handed them over to the Philistines, who oppressed them for 40 years. In those days, a man named Manoah from the tribe of Dan lived in the town of Zorah. His wife was unable to become pregnant, and they had no children. The angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah and Manoah's wife and said, "Even though you have been unable to have children, you will soon become pregnant and give birth to a son. So be careful. You must not drink wine." Oh, I think that was the other thing. You could not drink anything. You could not drink anything or eat anything fermented. You must not drink wine or any other alcohol drink or eat any forbidden food. You will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and his hair must never be cut. For he will be dedicated to God as a Nazarite from birth. He will begin to rescue Israel from the Philistines. The woman ran and told her husband, "A man of God appeared to me. He looked like one of God's angels. Terrifying to see. I didn't ask him where he was from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he told me, 'You will become pregnant and give birth to a son. You must not drink wine or eat any other alcohol drink, nor eat any forbidden food. Your son will be dedicated to God as a Nazarite from the moment of his birth until the day of his death.' Then Manoah prayed to the Lord, saying, 'Lord, please let this man come back to us again and give us more instructions about this son who is to be born to us.' God answered Manoah's prayer, and the angel of God appeared once again to his wife as she was sitting in a field, but her husband Manoah was not with her. So she quickly ran and told her husband, 'The man who appeared to me the other day is here again.' Manoah ran back with his wife and asked, 'Are you the man who spoke to my wife the other day?' 'Yes,' he replied, 'I am.' So Manoah asked him, 'When your words come true, what kind of rules should govern the boy's life and work?' And the angel of the Lord replied, 'Be sure your wife follows the instructions I gave her. She must not eat grapes or raisins, drink wine or any other alcoholic drink, or eat any forbidden food.' Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, 'Please stay here until we can prepare a young goat for you to eat.' 'I will stay,' the angel of the Lord replied, 'but I will not eat anything. However, you may prepare a burnt offering as a sacrifice to the Lord.' Manoah didn't realize it was an angel of the Lord. Then Manoah asked the angel of the Lord, 'What is your name?' For when all comes true, we want to honor you." "Why do you ask my name?" the angel of the Lord replied. "It's too wonderful for you to understand." Then Manoah took the young goat and a grain offering and offered it on a rock as a sacrifice to the Lord. And as Manoah and his wife watched, the Lord did an amazing thing. As flames from the altar shot up towards the sky, the angel of the Lord ascended in the fire. When Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell to their faces to the ground. The angel did not appear again to Manoah and his wife, and Manoah finally realized it was an angel of the Lord, and he said to his wife, "We will certainly die, for we have seen God." But his wife said, "If the Lord were going to kill us, he wouldn't have accepted our burnt offering and grain offering. He wouldn't have appeared to us and told us this wonderful thing and done these miracles." When her son was born, she named him Samson. And the Lord blessed him as he grew up, and Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he lived in Menah-Dan, which is located between the towns of Zorah and Eshtal. Samson's riddle. So let me tell you, before we go any further, I want to tell you a little bit about Samson. Samson was a little full of himself. He wanted what he wanted. Nobody could tell him anything different. And what he got, what he wanted, he got. People would go to the ends of the earth for him. And if they didn't go to the ends of the earth for him, he would destroy them. And so we're going to see the first example of this in this next chapter. This is Judges 14. It's called Samson's Riddle. One day when Samson was in Timnah, one of the Philistine women caught his eye. When he returned home, he told his father and mother, "A young Philistine woman has caught my eye. I want to marry her. Get her for me." If it were only that easy. His father and mother objected. "Isn't there even one woman in our tribe or among all the Israelites that you could marry?" They asked, "Why must you go to the pagan Philistines to find a wife?" But Samson told his father, "Get her for me. She looks good to me." His father and mother didn't realize the Lord was at work within this, creating an opportunity to work against the Philistines who ruled over Israel at that time. Thank you, Bob, for all the finger hearts and a gold mouth too. As Samson and his parents were going down to Timnah, a young lion suddenly attacked Samson near the vineyards of Timnah. At that moment, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, and he ripped the lion's jaws apart with his bare hands. He did it as easily as if it were a young goat. But he didn't tell his father or mother about it. When Samson arrived in Timnah, he talked with the woman and was very pleased with her. Later, when he returned to Timnah for the wedding, he turned off the path to look at the carcass of the lion that he just killed, and found that a swarm of bees has made some honey in the carcass. He scooped some of the honey into his hand and ate it along the way. He also gave some to his father and mother, and they ate it. But he didn't tell them that he had taken the honey from the carcass of the lion. Now that is one of the rules of a Nazirite, is you're never supposed to touch anything dead. And Samson has broken that rule already, because Samson doesn't care. Samson was given gifts that he is squandering them. As his father was making the final arrangements for the marriage, Samson threw a party in Timnah, as were the custom of the elite young men. When the bride's parents saw him, they selected 30 young men from the town to be his companions. Samson said to them, "Let me tell you a riddle. If you solve my riddle during these 7 days of the celebration, I will give you 30 fine linen robes and 30 sets of festive clothing. But if you can't solve it, then you must give me 30 fine linen robes and 30 sets of festive clothing. All right, they agreed. Let's hear your riddle. So he said, one out of one who eats came something to eat. One out of the strong came something sweet. 3 days later, they were still trying to figure it out. On the fourth day, they said to Samson's wife, entice your husband to explain the riddle for us, or we will burn down your father's house with you in it. Did you invite us to this party just to make us poor? So Samson's wife came to him in tears and said, you don't love me. You hate me. You have given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer. He says, I haven't even given the answer to my father or mother. Why should I tell you? So she cried whenever he was with him, and it kept up for the rest of the celebration. At last, on the seventh day, he told her the answer. This is very important right here. At last, on the seventh day, he told her the answer because she was tormenting him with her nagging. That's very important. If there's any women in here, just remember what you can do to men. Right here. It's right here in the holy word. Don't torment men with your nagging. Sorry I had to go there with that, but there it is. Then she explained the riddle to the young men. So before sunset on the seventh day, the men came to town to Samson with their answer. What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? Samson replied, if you hadn't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't have solved this riddle. Then the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. He went down to the town of Ashkelon, killed 30 men, took their belongings, and gave their clothing to the men who had solved the riddle. But Samson was furious about what had happened, and he went back home to live with his father and mother. So his wife was given in marriage to the man who had been Samson's best man at his wedding. Samson has vengeance. This next one is the vengeance on Samson. So I think we're seeing a little bit of the kind of person Samson is right here. So let's keep reading. Later on, during the wheat harvest, Samson looked at a young goat as a present to his wife. He said, I'm going into my wife's room to sleep with her, but her father wouldn't let him in. I truly thought you must hate her, her father explained, so I gave her in marriage to your best man. But look, her younger sister is even more beautiful than she is. Marry her instead. Samson said, this time I cannot be blamed for everything I am going to do to you Philistines. Then he went out and caught 300 foxes. He tied their tails together in pairs, and as he fastened he fastened a torch to each pair of tails. Then he lit the torches and let the foxes run through the grain fields of the Philistines. He burned all their grain to the ground, including the sheaves and the uncut grain. He also destroyed their vineyard and olive groves. Who did this? The Philistines demanded. Samson, was the reply, because his father-in-law from Timnah gave Samson's wife to be married to his best man. So the Philistines went and got the woman and her father and burned them to death. Because you did this, Samson vowed, I won't rest until I take revenge upon you. So he attacked the Philistines with great fury and killed many of them. Then he went to live in a cave in the rock of Etam. The Philistines retaliated by setting up a camp in Judea and, and spreading out near the town of Leah. The men of Judea asked the Philistines, "Why are you attacking us?" The Philistines replied, "We've come to capture Samson. We've come to pay him back for what he did to us." So 3,000 men of Judea went down to get Samson at the cave in the rock of Etam. They said to Samson, "Don't you realize the Philistines rule over us? What are you going to do to us?" But Samson replied, "I only did to them what they did to me." But the men of Judea told him, "We have come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines." "All right," Samson said, "but promise that you won't kill me yourselves." "We will only tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines," they replied. We won't kill you." So they tied him up with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the rock. As Samson arrived in Leah, the Philistines came shouting in triumph. But the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon Samson, and he snapped the ropes with his arms, as if they were burnt strands of flax, and they fell from his wrists. Then he found a jawbone from a recently killed donkey, and he picked it up and killed 1,000 Philistine men with it. And then Samson said, "With the jawbone of a donkey, I've piled them in heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey, I've killed 1,000 men." When he finished his boasting, he threw away the jawbone and the place was named Jawbone Hill. Samson was now very thirsty, and he cried out to the Lord, "You have accomplished this great victory by the strength of your servant. Now I must die of thirst and fall into the hands of these pagans." So God caused water to gush out of a hollow in the ground of Leah, and Samson was revived as he drank. Then he named the place the spring of the one who cried out, and it is still in Leah to this day. Samson judged Israel for 20 years during the period of when Philistines dominated the land. That'll be enough of that, Goldmouth. Samson carries away. I got to see something here. Okay. All right. The next part is when Samson, he's captured, but it says the title is Samson carries away the gates of Gaza. One day, Samson went to the Philistine town of Gaza and spent the night with a prostitute. Yep, I read that correctly. The word soon spread that Samson was there. The men of Gaza gathered together and waited all night at the town gates. They kept quiet during the night, saying to themselves, "When the light of the morning comes, we will kill him." But Samson stayed in bed only until midnight, and then he got up, took hold of the doors of the town gate, including the 2 posts, lifted them up, bar and all, and then he put them on his shoulders and carried them all the way to the top of the hill across from Hebron. Samson falls in love. This next part, Samson falls in love with a woman named Delilah. Thank you for the hat and mustache. Now, Delilah, I got to be careful how I word this, but the name of Delilah, when I hear a woman that's named Delilah, she's automatically sus to me. And that's because of this story right here, and I'm going to share it with you. Samson and Delilah. Sometime later, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah who lived in the valley of Sorek. The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, "Entice Samson to tell you what makes him so strong and how he can be overpowered and tightly secured. Each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver." So Delilah said to Samson, "Please tell me what makes you so strong, and what would it take to tie you up securely?" Samson replied, "If I were tied up with 7 new bowstrings that have not been yet dried, I would become as weak as anyone else." So the Philistine rulers brought Delilah 7 new bowstrings, and she tied Samson up with them. She had hidden some men in one of the inner rooms in her house, and she cried out, "Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you." But Samson snapped the bowstrings as a piece of string snaps when it's burned by fire. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. Afterwards, Delilah said to him, "You've been making fun of me and telling me these lies. Now tell me how you can be tied up securely." And Samson replied, "If I were tied up with brand new ropes that have never been used, I would become as weak as anyone else." So Delilah took new ropes and tied him up with them. And the men were hiding in the inner room as before, and again Delilah cried out, "Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you." But again Samson snapped the ropes from his arms as if they were new thread. Then Delilah said, "You've been making fun of me and telling me lies. Now tell me how you can be tied up securely." Samson replied, "If you were to weave the 7 braids of my hair into the fabric on your loom and tighten it with the loom shuttle, I would become as weak as anyone else." So while he slept, Delilah wove 7 braids of his hair into the fabric. Then she tightened it with the loom shuttle. Again she cried out, "Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you." But Samson woke up and pulled back the loom shuttle and yanked his hair away from the loom of his fabric. Then Delilah pouted, how can you tell me you love me when you don't share your secrets with me? You've made fun of me 3 times now, and you still haven't told me what makes you so strong." She tormented, guys, here's another one. She tormented him with her nagging day after day until he was sick to death of it. It's right here in the Holy Word, guys. It's right here. Finally, Samson shared his secret with her. "My hair has never been cut," he confessed, "for I was dedicated to God as a Nazarite from birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me and I would become weak as anyone else." Delilah realized he had finally told her the truth, so she sent the Philistine rulers to come back one more time. She said, For he has finally told me his secret." So the Philistine rulers returned with the money in their hands. Delilah lulled Samson to sleep with her head in his lap. And then she called a man to shave off 7 locks of his hair. In this way she began to bring him down, and his strength left him. And then she cried out, "Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you." When he woke up, he thought, "I will do as I've done before and shake myself free." But he didn't realize the Lord had left him. He didn't realize that the Lord had left him. So the Philistines captured him and gouged out his eyes. They took him to Gaza, where he is bound with bronze chains and forced to grind grain in prison. But before long, his hair began to grow back. And this is Samson's final victory. The Philistine rulers had a great festival, offering sacrifices and praising their god, Dagon. They said, "Our God has given us victory over our enemy Samson." When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, "Our God has delivered our enemy to us. The one who's killed so many is now in our power." Half drunk by now, the people demanded, "Bring Samson out so he can amuse us." So he is brought out from the prison to amuse them, and they had him standing between two pillars supporting the roof. Samson said to the young servant who was leading him by hand, "Place my hands against the pillars that hold up the temple. I want to rest against them." Now the temple was completely filled with people. All Philistine rulers were there, and there were about 3,000 men and women on the roof who were watching as Samson amused them. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, "Sovereign Lord, remember me again. O God, please strengthen me just one more time. With one blow, let me pay back the Philistines for the loss of my two eyes." Then Samson put his hands on the two center pillars that held up the temple. Pushing against them with both hands, he prayed, "Let me die with the Philistines." And the temple crashed down on the Philistine rulers and all the people. So he killed more people when he died than he had in his entire lifetime. Later, his brother and other relatives went down to get his body. They took him back home and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol, where his father Manoah was buried. Samson had judged Israel for 20 years. And that's the end of the story of Samson, but there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. The first thing is, it's called Appetites Out of Control. Oh, hold on, I got to fix this, do this puzzle piece here. All right. The National Football League has a message to ambitious coaches. Do you want to win? Then you first have to master yourselves. In trying to explain why many ball clubs refuse to hire coaches with serious weight problems, one general manager asked, "How can you demand self-control from players when you don't have it yourself?" The NFL wasn't the first organization to espouse this principle. The need for self-control comes right out of the Bible. If one man in the Old Testament shows how talent and promise goes unfulfilled due to lack of self-discipline, it has to be Samson. Commonly known as the strongest man who ever lived, Samson received his awesome physical might from God so that he might fight and liberate his fellow Israelites from the oppression of the Philistines. From birth, Samson's parents were instructed to rear him under strict rules governing a Nazarite, someone's life who had been dedicated to God in a special way. And there are scriptures that talk about that in Numbers 6:2-21, Judges 13:3-5, and 13-14, and Judges 16-17. Although from an early age Samson enjoyed special touch from the Spirit of the Lord, he never mastered his raging appetites. And that neglect eventually led to his death. Consider 4 areas in which Samson lacked self-control. Lust. When Samson saw a good-looking Philistine woman, he demanded that his parents arrange a marriage to her. Despite their warnings, when the marriage didn't work out, he slept with a prostitute and a treacherous woman named Delilah. A treacherous woman named Delilah. Greed. Samson tried to use an unfair bet to force his fiance's Philistine friends to enrich him with expensive clothing. Anger. Samson frequently reacted to bad news into flying into rage. And revenge. Samson lived and died for revenge. He loved saying things like, "I won't rest until I take my revenge upon you." Samson's lack of self-control eventually prompted him to tell Delilah the secret of his strength. She gave him over to his enemies for a bribe, and he wound up blind and in a Philistine prison. The saddest line of this whole story is, "But he didn't realize that the Lord had left him." In the end, Samson died along with thousands of taunting captors in a final act of revenge. He led Israel for 20 years, imagining the winning record he could have amassed had he learned to control his appetites. What sort of greatness could he have achieved if he only had self-control? I think that that's a very powerful statement for all of us. Every single one of us. Look, I'm a bigger guy, and sometimes I don't control my appetite, and I think that that's something that I've worked on a lot over the years. I used to be double this size, so I've lost a ton of weight, and I've learned to control that, and it's through this that I've learned to control that. We'll never know what kind of greatness could he have achieved if only he had self-control. We'll never know. But we do know that he proved the statement of one of our ancient Greek philosophers: no man is free who is not master of himself. And the point is, no man wins without controlling his own passions. I've got one other thing to read, and we can talk about it or not talk about it or whatever else. The next part I'm going to read is a treacherous woman. Samson and Delilah certainly qualifies as one of history's all-time dysfunctional couples. Samson had already been around before meeting Delilah. An earlier marriage of his had crashed in a week, and thereafter he had been known to visit prostitutes. But he really lost all control when he fell in love with Delilah. His emotions swept away all caution. After some prodding and manipulation, he told Delilah the secret of his amazing strength. Soon she pulled off a sting operation that left him powerless. Scripture warns us not to trust our emotions, but we often ignore that instruction when it comes to matters of the romantic heart. We just can't believe that a gorgeous object of our affection would ever succumb to selfishness. Surely good intentions and good sense will prevail. Lust is a powerful force. And believe it or not, many women, and men too, are skilled in the art of manipulation. Humans are sinful beings, and without guidance from above, the dance of romance tends to lead towards sin. We tell ourselves that God is the giver of our emotions and sexual desires. While this is true, God didn't intend love between a man and a woman to result in blindness, either literally or figuratively. We are to bring all relationships, romantic and otherwise, under the guidance and the will of God. Meanwhile, be cautious. Never forget that romantic love can be fertile ground for sin. And I believe that's everything that I have to read. Yes. And that's everything for tonight's sermon. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Thank you for the 10 roses, Kilo. I appreciate it. Thank you for the heart me, Kilo. So that's it. That's what we talked about. The life and death of Samson, a man who was gifted by God, who could not control his own desires and his own rage and his own lustful behavior. Well, thank you, Kilo. Thank you so much. And I think that that's a powerful lesson for all of us, because I think at some point we've all been guilty of that. I'm eating Gold Star cheese and conies. That's great, Big Red. Oh yeah, Samson. Samson was the story of the night, Kilo. I don't know if you just showed up, but we talked about Samson. We talked about the treacherous woman of Delilah. That was amazing. Thank you, Durante. Thank you. And we have to be careful with lust. Old Delilah. Yep, old Delilah. She really caught Samson. She really messed Samson up, man. She must have been a good-looking woman. I liked what I heard of it. Good, Big Red. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. I thank you so much for sticking around and enjoying it. Let's see who's in here. Let's see who's stuck around. Oh, it looks like Ginger left. It looks like oh, Rachel. Oh, it looks like glitter sparkles left. Yes, back then women were given. Here, I'm going to move this and take this off there. Back in those days, women were arranged for marriage. Scott was here for a bit. Okay, we can have boxes now. President Durate, you can come on up.
Graham, that was amazing.
Was it an amazing? Oh,
Yes, it
read
was.
Kilo's comment. I always wondered if she felt guilt because somewhere in her there had to be compassion. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about that, but like she got a bunch of silver pieces, and yeah, I don't know if she felt guilt or not. That's a good
I
question
would.
though, Kilo.
Should I like say something? I always say something about
Yes,
your
Durante,
sermons.
please say something.
So, one thing about Samson was he was a gift from his parents, and God went to them, and what I'm saying, and they. One thing about it was they kept they was listening to his word because he was telling the people that he went right back to heaven. You know what he did, right?
Yeah,
And he went back to heaven and he told the people that they could not see his face anymore because
right.
if they seen his face,
They will die.
they was going to die.
Yeah, that's
So,
correct. Right.
and one thing about it was she didn't. Well, maybe I don't want to say that she didn't have no faith, but she was just keeping the word. She remembered the word that he was saying,
Yeah, like I don't
and
understand. Like Samson loved Delilah so much,
yeah,
and she totally betrayed him. And
right,
I've had a woman do that to my life. I've had a woman do
yeah,
that to me that I thought loved me so much,
yeah,
and she betrayed me right when I needed her the absolute most.
right.
And I understand that, man. I understand how Samson felt with that. That story really relates to me a lot.
So I'm still confused.
Okay.
When you were you reading two different stories?
No,
Because in
I
the
was.
beginning, that's why I said I'm confused. In the beginning, there was a woman and she did something wrong, and then God gave the man another woman, the sister-in-law or something.
Yes. Do you know what she did wrong?
No.
She nagged him to
Oh yeah,
death
yeah, yeah. I
day
remember you
after
saying that.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing.
So were those the
This
same
is
people
one
that,
thing,
that was
Rachel.
that Delilah?
This
No, that wasn't Delilah. That was his wife.
Rachel.
Yes,
This
sir.
is the thing. So one thing about God is He puts people
Hold
in
on,
our
little
lives.
mouth. I'm not gonna I'm not unmute. Where nobody can see that. You didn't say that. Put that back in your mouth. Go
So
ahead,
one
Durante.
thing about this is God put people in our life. And one thing about it is we don't know anything about that person. He's the only person that knows about this person and everything. And one thing about it is he let us see what type of person they is.
Yeah. Well,
And
here.
when he does that, he takes them out of our lives and he gives us another kind of person.
Right.
So,
I mean,
Rachel,
yeah.
let me explain it to you, Rachel. So Samson got married to this woman, and